and welcome back to the Public Square on 99.3 Nigeria Info with me, Rotimi Sankore. Ahohobo is still on leave, but he'll be joining us tomorrow for the special elections coverage. So, welcome Ayo to the idea segment, and Seun Akinfolare of the Civic Media Lab.
Yeah, thank you.
Still,
Lab. Okay, yes.
Is still very much with us. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Hope your journey went smoothly.
Well, parts of it were smooth, as they say, and but people seem to get so bent out of shape when I say that parts of the road are very smooth. I mentioned that it was so smooth I could pour myself out a cup of coffee from my flask.
Without problems.
And no spills.
So some
no
part
splashes.
of the road passed the Fashola challenge.
More than past it.
And
But parts of it didn't.
And the parts that were no good.
Shake, rattle and roll. But the point is that what I don't understand is why people get so bent out of shape by the fact that some of the news is good and some of the news is not good. It's not, I don't know
Maybe
maybe
it's because where the roads are bad, they are very bad.
No, the point is that in some places it's bad, in some places it's very bad, in some places it's good, and in some places, oh boy, it's very good. But what I experienced on my way coming back was that we hit Berger and we ran into the mother and father of all hold-ups. And that's why, instead of being here at 4 o'clock, I'm so sorry, is that I'm here at 5 o'clock. But I do hope that we will be able to start the discussion on the idea segment and to welcome listeners to integrity, democracy, ethics and accountability as they reflect in the elections that we are about to witness in Bayelsa State and Kogi State. I have to say, Rotimi, that the news does not resonate with those particular virtues, particularly integrity and ethics. I mean,
let's go to Bayelsa first.
Okay. Well, Bayelsa is. I think Bayelsa is a little bit. There are two parts to it. We'd already been discussing the fact that there are so many security agencies deployed in the state, and you see, there's a point at which it becomes counterproductive because, as I said, if the intelligence agencies and security agencies had done their job and were working in harmony, then there shouldn't be a need for such overwhelming security presence unless the purpose of the security presence is something else, which is to say either to intimidate voters, or it could equally be to again pass a message to those who might want to use violence in the elections that we're on ground to stop it. But I do think that, and it could be, and that could happen from either side or any of the sides, considering how many candidates there are in the election. But there's also that issue of the, I mean, apart from the security aspect, there's the litigation conundrum, which looks to be a rerun of the situation that was seen in Zamfara State in the national elections. And the question is whether that situation, the way it resolved itself in Zamfara State, is also going to be how it is resolved in Bayelsa State.
And that similarity is because it seems
it's have intervened.
Yes, but more importantly, it seems like the court rulings, both the one removing the APC candidates from the ballots, and then the appeal court stay saying he should remain on the ballot. Either way, both came too late, and INEC just said that they will remain on the ballot, but the votes will be null.
No, the INEC did not say the votes would be null. What happened was that at the last minute, an order was secured suspending or removing the APC candidate. Now, INEC said that had come too late. Meanwhile, that order was appealed against and an order for stay was sought. And the Court of Appeal, quite sensibly, which is the obvious thing to do, said that we're not going to postpone the election. What we do is that we suspend the impact of this ruling that the APC candidate is not qualified to be on the ballot paper, and we allow the election to go ahead with him on it, which is what INEC had already said, that they had no option but
Yes,
to do it
but,
anyway.
but what INEC is then
if,
saying,
yeah,
if,
no, well, yeah,
okay, now you are
there's an
coming
if
to
there.
it.
There's an if there.
Now you are
You
coming
can't
to
say,
it.
INEC did not say the votes will be null. INEC said that the person will remain on the ballot paper, and that if the litigation confirms the candidate's disqualification, then any votes cast for a disqualified candidate will be of no effect, will be null and void. So that's why I say it's similar to the situation that we saw in Zamfara State, where the vote went ahead with the candidate on the ballot box, and if they and in fact in Zamfara State, the APC candidate got the most votes, but because the courts eventually upheld the disqualification on the basis of lack of proper primary election, because of that, those votes were cancelled.
Does it create a dilemma if the disqualified candidate gets the higher votes?
Well, it didn't create a dilemma in Zamfara State. In fact, in Zamfara State, the disqualified candidate would have shared his votes with another candidate and comfortably would still, that person would still have won. Now, in Bayelsa, it may become a moot point, because Bayelsa is a state where so far the PDP has had a majority. It has a majority in the House of Assembly, and it's the incumbent party. Now, we discussed Bayelsa quite extensively last week, but the point when we talk about the integrity of the election is that the obvious thing to do, which is what, as I said, the Court of Appeal did and INEC did, was to say rather than cancel an election or remove somebody from the ballot, then we should allow them to remain on the ballot. There's a political dimension to that kind of decision, because it may be that some people hear, oh, your candidate has been disqualified, and they will decide not to go out and vote. And when something like that happens, if it turns out that the candidate was not disqualified, then that candidate may, if they don't win the plurality of the votes, may say, well, it was an unfair election which lacks integrity because my supporters were falsely discouraged by the attempt to disqualify me. So it does have an impact on the integrity.
And the 24-hour turnaround between the High Court and the Court of Appeal is
No,
that
when there's an urgency, there's urgency. It's just that we've now become used to somebody labeling something an urgent matter and the court saying, we'll hear it next week. But in my youth, we used to say something was urgent and the court would hear it. And of course, we have the example of courts in other parts of the world where you don't even have to appear in court. The judges will give an order over the telephone where there's an urgent situation. So I think rather than raising our eyebrows, we say, no, I don't raise my eyebrows at the 24-hour turnaround. As long as you get your appeal ready in time, you get your appeal ready. What I raise my eyes at is that when there are other similarly urgent situations, for example, those that involve the liberty of the person, the court say, we are coming, but we don't need to hurry. And so I think that we would like to see this kind of attention to urgent matters, but we think that rather than criticizing it, we want to see it extended so that we can all feel that we have access to the temple of justice, not just those who are politically connected or important, etc.
Okay, and quickly to Kogi, where the problem,
Well, Kogi
as it is, seems to be different.
Well, again, it raises questions not from the point of view of the Independent National Electoral Commission, but in the context of whether the security agencies can be said to be behaving with integrity or in an ethical manner in the preservation or nurturing of Nigerian democracy. because I mean, we've all seen these situations where the parties are encouraged to come and sign declarations that they will peacefully conduct the election, that they will abide by the result of the election, and so on. And then you find a situation where a candidate for one of the parties, that is Natasha Kogi of the Social Democratic Party, was on her way to sign the documents that signified that she too was ready to abide by to conduct the election in a peaceful manner. And she was attacked at the very entrance where the security agencies were. Her secretariat had already been attacked, and the finger clearly pointed at the incumbent, because the pictures of the APC candidate were pasted all over her own SDP secretariat. So it's not just not a good look for the APC, which is signing a peace treaty or document that we intend to conduct things peacefully. It doesn't, not only doesn't look good for them, but it looks even worse for the security agencies, which are supposed to provide security.
They couldn't protect her, they couldn't apprehend the people.
Yes, I mean, and I think that when we use words like couldn't, one begins to be a little bit, because anywhere where the Inspector General of Police goes, he doesn't just stroll in like you or I. He goes with what we call entourage, and his own entourage is not just Tom, Dick, and Harry. His entourage is well-armed, alert, elite police officers. So if the IG is somewhere and this is happening outside, then it raises very, very serious questions about the commitment of the security agencies. I mean, it's one thing to say that I'm only here to protect Mr. X, and therefore when I see Mrs. Y being murdered in the street, well, I'm sorry, I'm only here to, I mean, no, would anybody accept that as an excuse? If it was a member of the public who said, I only came here to face direction 1, and I refuse to look in direction 2, it would be accepted. And it's certainly not acceptable from the security agency. So I think that there are some things that are a little bit too much in your face. I've said before that I'm a little bit of a believer in a bit of hypocrisy in public life. And when you do things that are so blazing, so brazen and blatant, you see, I don't know if you may be young, you may not remember, just a mere 6 or 7 years ago when elections were to be held in Ekiti State. And you're looking puzzled. Memories are short in Nigeria. The elections were to be held in Ekiti State, and the incumbent governor was Ayodele Fayose. And the main challenger was Kayode Fayemi of the All Progressives Congress. He had been out of office, he was now trying to come back. And the way that the police infiltrated, he was the incumbent, and he was facing, he was trying to be re-elected. But the way that the police invaded, the security agencies invaded the state, and they were openly going around. They were wearing balaclavas so that you couldn't identify them, and toting fearsome weaponry, as far as I'm concerned anyway. I mean, it may have been ordinary AK-47 to some people, but to me it was fearsome weaponry. And so the point is that was done, and it was roundly condemned and criticized by everybody except the incumbent PDP. And now we see that instead of saying we are going to not behave in that fashion, we're seeing, I mean, we may not see money changing hands in the way that we saw.
Well, on the question of money, this 10 billion naira refund.
No, that's a separate matter. With due respect, I mean, 10 billion, the money. I will come to it, but the point is that we are on in terms of the security. Now we are seeing that the thing that was condemnable when it was done by Mr. Party A is now, well, it's a different matter when it comes to Party B. I mean, Nigerians are a little bit more sophisticated like that, and I'm aware that the partisans on each side will seek to justify whatever is being done by their own favored party. But really, I think that the security agencies ought not to be falling into that trap.
We only have a minute or two to go.
You are going to
on the-
talk
on the
about
ideas, but the 10 billion refund. what-
Yes, I mean, the fact is that states are entitled to get their money. The problem, as is always, that why is the money being released on the eve of elections? Is it to persuade the people? I mean, on the one hand, I would say that if it was really felt that that yes, the government of the party that we want you to vote for is the same government and power at the center that is releasing this money, that would be, it would be a bit borderline, but it would be within acceptable because the money is owed. But you see, the fear is that this money that is being released is not being released because Kogi State needs it for the benefit of its citizens, but that the people in power in Kogi State need it for the purposes of elections. And that's where it becomes, we move from the grey area to the deepest hues of black.
Okay. All right. Sean, would you want to weigh in on?
Well, I think that it's also very worrisome that the government themselves should be sensitive to such an issue. If you release the money on the eve of the election, even a child would connect the dots, right? And it doesn't tell well for the image of the government at the center, because whether we like it or not, the perception now is that the money is for elections. You and I can talk about the technicality. People feel that money has come, like that the Kogi bullion van has arrived. Seller.
That's a massive alert to get 2 days to election. 10 billion alert. Your smartphone may even collapse under the weight of the money.
I'm not sure that it has capacity for
That many
10 billion
digits.
is 10,000 million naira.
Yeah.
It's not a small amount. It's not a small amount. But I want to thank you both. Cheryl and Rotimi.
Somebody made a joke that if it's mistakenly transferred to another person's account.
That would not be a joke. I would want to close the idea segment by thanking Cheryl and Rotimi for joining me to again look at some of the issues that border on integrity, on ethics. We talked about accountability last week, but now we are really in the heat of the integrity and ethics matters. And from the perspective of democracy, I'm afraid that things are not looking quite so healthy from an ideas point of view.
Okay, thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, maybe we should